I work as the communications and marketing coordinator for Musqueam Capital Corp. Really, I was taken on into the development team. The position is kind of for Musqueam Capital Corp, just for social media, our website updates, and really trying to get the communication of what MCC does out to our community members as well, because that's one of the most important things for me and what we do at MCC, because MCC used to be a part of work within the Musqueam Indian Band itself. It was kind of like an economic development department, but now it's separated into its own arm. It's still under MIB, but it's an extension of, I always tell everyone, I was like, MIB is the parent and MCC is just the child, it's the baby of it. So
I'm curious that to what extent the elders teaching that are part of the day-to-day operations.
The MCC is run slightly different in the way that we have a board of directors that we report to, but all of our reporting also goes back to Chief and Council, the band. But with projects specific like Laylam in UBC, the development of logo and branding is all we meet with community members and elders. So it's important that we always go back to them for their input, feedback, and mostly their stories and history, especially for language as well. So elders and community members are always engaged on project specific.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. To us, it's not art, it's our culture, it's our way of our life and our teachings that we have grown up with. And I totally respect that, because it is true, and the different art forms that the paintings, even within her own weavings and all our drumming, those things are I consider it's like an art form of how they've interpreted their teachings. I think a part of me, when I do my artwork, it's the story behind it that I like to really explain on how it came to be that way.
Yeah.
Right?
It's wonderful. Yeah.
So I was talking to my sister about that the other day, because there's another proposal that I was hoping to submit for, and she was like, no, it's so right. She loves looking at the right. She's like, don't get me wrong, but I love hearing the story, right? So and that's what our culture really is continuing those teachings and the stories of our grandparents and our aunts and uncles. But I think the art form is how each individual artist interpret what they have learned. Yeah.
I just want to hear a little bit about how she got you to do art and that intersection, but also a little bit about her, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So my grandmother.
So this is Arlene Point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, my name, Grace Eileen, comes from my grandmother Arlene and her sister Grace. Their names put together.
Ah, that's wonderful.
So that's how Grace Eileen, the name came from. My great grandfather. He actually named his fishing boat Grace Eileen too. Yeah. There's a painting of a fishing boat, and it has Grace Eileen on it. It still sits in my grandma's house. My cousin Will now owns the house, but that painting's still there. My grandmother, she had such a great influence in my life. We a lot of First Nations were multi-generational in our homes. So our house was always packed, to the point where I always felt like I didn't want kids because there's always so many people in our house. And now I have 2 kids of my own. And she would love to draw, and we draw and color together when I was a little girl. And my mom saw the spark of how much I could just sit and draw all the time. And it was actually in elementary school. They had these lunchtime activities that you could sign up for, and my mom had signed me up for different art series for drawing, pastel, painting, just to get a feel of it. And I took it all throughout high school, but my grandmother always encouraged me and had shared things that she liked. She loved the frogs and hummingbirds and eagles, and she would show me how she would draw it, and then she would allow me to give the time of how would I do it too.
That's
so
wonderful.
It was really nice. And then just hearing stories of frogs in itself in our community, where it's a sign of like changing seasons. Once you start hearing the frogs, you know the season is changing. Yeah, just little stories like that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Like, I really understand the, like, you know, the intersection between, you know, like a supportive family and how you can, like, you know, inspires you into like getting into art. Yeah, I just want to know more about you, actually. I don't think we got to talk about you. Like, you know, like, I want to know more about Grace.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
I am. My father's actually from Fiji, so I'm half Fijian. My mom is Musqueam, but my grandfather's also from Nanaimo. So actually, it wasn't until I was like 19 I became a Musqueam band member. Previous to that, I was a part of the Nanaimo under my grandfather, and I've lived on and off reserve, mostly on reserve now. So it's great having that community feel. Gosh, I was always into sports. My mom always kept me busy.
Yeah.
Like basketball, badminton, bowling, you name it. And so like anything to keep me busy. But after high school, I actually I took a different avenue of like the love for my art. I actually went into makeup artistry, and so I actually have a makeup artist diploma. And
can I
come
to you?
Oh,
I need to do you're beautiful. Maybe I will have an appointment with Grace. Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, I went to VCC and took aesthetics to work in a spa, so I could know the whole, I guess, beautician studies, and really I had taken it because I went to a family reunion in 2005, and I wanted to go back, and working in the spa, you can kind of travel with that job, but really they were just like trips to go back to visit family. I never worked there. But makeup artistry was a lot of fun because I love special effects makeup. I love Halloween is my favorite. Every year I would do my aunt. She loves Halloween, and so we'd go like really, I wouldn't say like extreme, but like one year I made her into Freddy Krueger.
That's amazing.
And another year she wanted to be an old man. And like everyone dresses up at the office. Yeah. She went to go sit in a board meeting. Yeah. She sits on council. And she went to a meeting, and everyone's like, does anyone know who this is? And she like started talking, and they're like, that's you, Allison. Yeah, because I made her bald.
Oh my god.
And she had like a little bit of gray hair, and no one had recognized her. It was really funny. So like, I love special effects makeup, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, so each year, we haven't done it so much in the past couple of years because of like our kids and everything, but Halloween is definitely a favorite, and makeup artistry is not something that I do anymore, but it's more of a hobby, and whenever someone else needs help with like a wedding, like maybe I'll do it, but no, I haven't done it in a long time. But it's so much fun, and I love it.
I love that, like, I love learning about that aspect about you. It's great. Thank you for sharing that.
And so it's been a journey, and it wasn't until I had my son that I wanted to be close to the daycare, and that's when I actually worked within the band office in multiple departments before I moved to MCC. Not long after I had my son, I went back to school actually to Langara, and got my bookkeeping certificate. Wow. So then I moved into the finance and accounting department at the band, and I worked there for a few years before moving over to MCC. I actually moved to MCC to be the junior accountant. It wasn't until then, where I think it was 2019, where I moved into the position that I have now, and I love it.
Amazing. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, but like, what would you say is your favorite like work that you've done, and kind of like the story behind it? Because I know you love sharing about like the stories behind
it. That is a hard one.
Yeah. It's like picking between a kid, you know? It's hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. You know, like, I really loved working at the spa. I worked at a spa before I had my son for 6 years. Actually, I worked while I was like pregnant, like right up until I gave birth to him. And at that time, like at maybe like towards the end of that that career. I was transitioning slowly into more administrative work with the band, but I loved working at the spa because you get to meet so many people and hear different stories and learn different cultures, and it was off a little spa off of Commercial Drive, actually, so like that community itself is a lot of fun to be around. I'd say that was like one of my favorite jobs, but honestly, I'm really happy just working within the band. It can be very challenging and can get very political, but knowing that I'm helping do something for my community is very important to me, because I look at my kids and you think of like our elders and everything that they did for us. It's trying to take those teachings and then can carry it on, and knowing that I can help do something for my kids and all of their little friends and community, that like that's really important to me.
Hey,
Sure.
so I might have kind of misspoke my question. I was more talking about like what your favorite artwork was.
Oh,
and the
okay.
story was that. I kind of tend to like abbreviate.
No, that's okay. My favorite art piece.
Yeah, that's a little hard to ask.
Yeah.
It's one of those tough questions, right?
That is a hard one. You know, I did really love doing the drawing of my aunt, the portrait of my aunt. And I also feel a little bit sad that I didn't do another one or make another copy before sending it and selling it.
She's still here?
Yeah, she's still here.
Do more.
Yeah, she's still here. Yeah, I could always do another. And honestly, in that one, it was very sensitive. I asked for her permission before doing it.
I see.
So I just wanted to be respectful, and knowing that the theme that I had chosen from their list was residential school, and she said okay, as long as she didn't have to talk about anything, and that was fair. It was just really important for me to really wanted to do that one, because that school itself that she had gone to was very difficult, trying times, and I saw it, and I don't know, I had this like vision of wanting to do it, and then that contest had come out, and I said, okay, I'm doing it, and I just did it. And so that was one that was probably one of my favorites, but definitely it's hard to say.
But I'm wondering, like, are there any kind of like lessons or like kind of experiences that you take away from your work that from the past, or?
Not that I can think of right now, but honestly, it's a continuing learning process. Like I do like to talk to a lot of my family members and get their, I wouldn't say like get their approval, but I just really get their thoughts around like if I'm on the right track and I'm not misrepresenting anything either. Like it's a continuous talk with my mom even and other family members.
How old are your kids?
My son just turned 11 and my daughter is 7.
I have a daughter too, and one of the things that I'm struggling, how the things that I grew up with, the values and the environment is so different, but then how I can pass on to today's digital age. Kids more have an iPhone connected to the outer world so instantly. How do you pass on to Musqueam, let's say even the elder circles or story time or slowing down or nature and all those things? More and more I find it difficult to do. Do you find it challenging, or you still hold on?
No, I do find it challenging because like our especially with COVID and my kids, like when they were really little, I had a harder time taking them to our longhouse, mostly because like I grew up going with my mom and my grandmother a lot to the longhouse and listening to like the drumming and songs. It's hard because like you really have to stay still inside, and my kids are very hyper. So it was I didn't really bring them after. I knew I couldn't sit through it with them. So now that they're a little bit older, we just had a family memorial this past March, and it was their first time of really observing and learning and hearing a lot more of our language spoken. And I think it's very hard because you're right with the iPads and phones, and there's like this constant screen, and like
Yeah.
me trying to reduce that screen time as well is hard. But like honestly, while I'm cooking, I try to encourage like my kids, like, here's a sketchbook, get like the markers out, get the paint out, we like get whatever you want, like try to do something that doesn't involve screens. But it's hard. It's very hard.
One thing that I was very impressed, Gail used to take her niece, like Brianna, and other kids here when she comes
Yeah.
at the meeting. Keiko, can I bring my
Oh,
nieces?
nice.
And sure. And then sometimes behind the background, my daughter is playing with them and stuff like that. I grew up, again, culture that the neighbors raised me, or the
Oh,
distant
for sure.
relatives.
Yeah.
When you're doing something really bad on the street, stranger will tell you what to behave and what not. So, and I see that little bit of that in
Oh,
Gail's practice.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is really so much needed today, because now in a public bus or any public space, people completely
Block
isolate.
off.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Is
And-
that like a notion of stranger danger, right?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Whereas Musqueam or certain Chinese culture, people call me auntie, even though I'm not a related
Yeah.
auntie, which I like. And
Yeah.
do you like?
Oh, yeah,
that
my kids-
tradition continues.
Oh yeah, my kids like honestly, my son is a little social butterfly. He has like no fear. Like once we taught him how to ride a bike, like off he went in the neighborhood, and it like really scared me, because I'm like, hey, I can't see you. He's already gone all the way around. But definitely the kids play with like next door neighbors, and it's nice because like when my kids play with a bunch of other kids, I'll give them our family history. Hey, that's your cousin.
Yeah.
And I was just explaining to my daughter, she was playing with a little boy, his name is Vincent, and I was like, his daddy and his daddy's grandfather and my grandmother were brother and sister. So really trying to make sure that they know the family ties as well.
Yeah.
But definitely no one in our neighborhood is not afraid to like, hey, you guys shouldn't be a get off the road kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But it's nice
Yeah, I think
having that.
Extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking like, how do you incorporate like the stories and how you've grown up into your art and into your life?
And so even developing like logos and trying to think of how to convey like the meaning of it is a little bit hard, but at the same time, like while I'm designing, I'm trying to think of like stories that I've listened to from like my grandparents, and so as I'm drawing it, I'm thinking of them. But also once it's like finally complete, I look at each of the like little details, and then I try to tie it back to the story, our land, and ensuring that like there's an it'll be understood as well. But it I wouldn't say like I know it right from the beginning. I think it's like once the art is kind of done and I can take a step back and then try to incorporate the stories into it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm also just kind of a bit curious. Family seems to be a very big, like very foundational part of your story.
Yeah.
How do you like, whenever you engage in artwork, how does your family play a role in this, if that's something that's okay to ask?
Yeah, that's fine. They always get to see it before it's done.
Yeah.
And I always get like their feedback too, like what they think and what and how they know me too is important. I've like heard it for like my cousin Kelly Cannell. Her and her mom, brothers, well-known artists in Musqueam. And she's like, I never knew you did art. And I was like, I did. Like, I'm just starting, and like a lot of it has just stayed in my sketchbook for so long. And it wasn't until my cousin Des was like, Grace applied. And I'm like, okay. And like, I'm just get so nervous about what other people might think or feel about the art piece too. And Kelly told me, Grace, is all that important is that like how you feel about it, and if you like it. And other people will always say, whether they do or they don't, and that's fine, but it's yours. And that meant so much to me when she told me that, because I was just about to release, I had just released the David Suzuki map at that point, and she called me about it, and I was like, yes, I know, nobody really knows. Kept it on a low radar for so long. But yeah, my family is very important to me. I always show them or let them know that of like the work that I'm kind of doing, and it's always important that I get their feedback too. Yeah.
How does it feel for you, you know, like this kind of sensation, like on the ground, I guess?
Very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It is nerve-wracking, but it's so exciting at the same time, because I do like to see people's reactions to the art pieces itself, and I just also just feel like proud that I was able to do it, and because it is hard. Like I have 2 kids and like full-time job, so whenever I have time to like work on those art pieces, they do make for like a longer day. But at the same time, like time passes because like it's something that I like thoroughly enjoy doing. It's exciting because
I can't stress this enough. Thank you so much.